Welcome to 2026. The world is a dumpster fire. You probably cannot afford to breathe no more, and the only thing you can do is to vanish into the soundscapes of your favorite artist, who never existed. Let me show you something. This is a song called I Justine from an artist named Kira AI. It's intentionally annoying, it's intentionally catchy, and it's literally everything that the internet has always wanted and needed. But then the internet detectives showed up. They said plagiarism, soulless machine, AI slop, etc. Funny thing is that instead of just ignoring the outrage like the majority of the artists do nowadays, Kira AI decided to show proof that the song was really made by a human. She showed the screen recording of Logic Pro. Except here is the problem. In February 2026, Gabby Bell, yeah, the one whose video probably has given you your latest existential crisis, decided to repeat the same proof by generating an AI song through Suno, extracting all the stems from it, aligning them neatly in her DAW, and make a screenshot of the project file. It took her literally like 10 minutes. And what do you think happened after the Gabby's video? Kira AI decided to wipe her entire digital footprint. Who would have thought, huh? But let's be honest for a second, the song sucked anyway. I don't care if it was generated in a data center in Western Virginia or in someone's bedroom. The output remained the same. Slop. And that brings me to my first major problem with this whole debate. We are so obsessed with the method of the creation of any form of art that we have forgotten about the outcome and the result of this creation. So you have the AI bros on one side, proving that some sort of prompting is a skill.
Remind the fact that it actually does take a certain amount of skill and knowledge to craft prompts that will generate a good result in these softwares.
It's not, brah, relax. And you have the salty creators on the other side of the spectrum trying to prove that Suno and any other forms of AI is like a personal and ultimate attack on the whole universe of Western music. And to be frank, I hate both of you. Truly, madly, deeply. I hate the AI because it's a mood aggregator and melodic calculator aimed to milk the streaming platform so that it gives all the possible fractions of money it's supposed to pay to the original musicians, and because 99% of the time it generates background noise designed to trick your grandma into thinking that it's real music. But I also truly despise the so-called resistance. I hate performers who spent hours crying about AI killing the music or killing the next whatever thing they decide to kill, on a platform that, by the way, is being owned by Google, using a camera made by Sony while wearing a support real music t-shirt they made on Amazon. We are caught between an anvil and a hammer of absolute and utter bullshit. On the one hand, we've got the machines coming for the mid. We've got the background noise, background music in its any form, stock sounds, and any generic pop tune, pop cover, pop creation that has been done by any bedroom producer. On the other, the mid is panicking, and that's really understandable. They've spent their entire lives and entire careers making average art to attract the widest target audiences possible, only to realize that a newly developed machine can do the same average form of art, but better, faster, and what is most importantly, cheaper. If your art can be replaced by a single prompt, I've got some really bad news for you. You were never an artist. You were always a content creator, like you were always told to be. You were told to forget the art, to forget the pondering, to document versus create. You were only feeding the algorithm, and surprisingly, it has found cheaper food. Does this sound harsh to you? Good, because it actually should. Because until we all, collectively, stop treating art as a product, we will keep getting slop. For the last decade, we've been getting human-made slop, and you were all okay with it, and a lot of you were okay making it. But now, you're just mad that a machine does the same for you. And it's all always about the money. Record labels are the cynical predators preying on both the artists and the listeners, but at least it was always that way. Baby, baby, tell me more of your lies. So as you might know, AI music generators were not left unnoticed. In 2024, the RIAA, Sony, Universal, Warner sued Suno and Udio for copyright infringement. Obviously, they alleged these companies scraped the history of recorded music to build their conveyor belts of sound slop. Without permission, without compensation, and without a single flying given for the meatbags credited as authors. And they had a point. Just last month, in March 2026, a guy named Michael Smith pled guilty in New York. As you might assume, it wasn't about the ethics, it was a $10 million robbery. Gotta admire the guy's hustle, because he generated hundreds of thousands of AI songs, used bots to stream them billions of times, and siphoned millions in royalties away from real struggling artists. So, labels got pissed, right? But before you start cheering for the record labels as the protectors of arts, let's look at what has been happening meanwhile. Back to November 2025, Warner Music Group, the company suing Suno, decided, you know what, fuck this, let's make a deal, and decided to work with Suno. Universal has done the same with Udio. They called this nonsense the so-called walled garden. UMG's CEO, Sir Lachlan, by the way, I don't give a single shit about his name spelling, okay? Started mumbling something about protecting songwriters, protecting listeners, blah 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 blah. In reality, this hypocrite has already known about the Smiths case, and all he wanted to do is to develop another source of $1 million in his direct pocket. By the way, gotta blame Smith for that too. If that idiot stayed modest, stayed calm, and stand quiet, if he would just generate like 5 to 10k of income through his streams and bots, nobody would even notice and give a single shit, except a couple of YouTubers seeking attention, validation, and another source of traffic. But that dumbass decided to indulge in his greed, and we all collectively, all of us, have to suffer from it. Back to the labels. So all in all, the labels never sued because they cared about you as a listener and you as an artist. They didn't care about the soul of music either. They sued because in addition to money, they wanted control, to be the ones holding the keys to all the data. They saw a $1 trillion industry of automated slop and realized they could run this shit show. So all the bases finally belong to them. While the oblivious and naive indie artists are signing open letters like "Say No to Suno." That's so adorable. The major labels are already building Suno Pro tiers where they could get a cut of every prompt. This is the ultimate industry abuse. They told you they were fighting for you, they told you they were protecting you and your music. They told you that the AI was the ultimate enemy, and they told you that they were the only solution to it. Then they sold your entire discography to the machine so that it could make a licensed version of your favorite slop. So legally it's not plagiarism no more, financially it's not property theft no more, and morally and ethically, I mean, who gives a damn when your country is being ruled by a demented pervert anyway? So when a creator tells you about fighting the machine, you gotta ask them, which one? Because at this point, the machine and the music industry are the exact same fucking thing. The fighting itself also doesn't help. The so-called resistance and their crying is the second half of this whole problem. You were loved when you were a child. I wasn't there. Yes, you heard correct. They are a part of the problem. All of those creators who have turned hating AI into their whole personality, them artists who spend 8 hours a day making TikToks about how the soul of humanity is being erased because some guy in Ohio generated a generic counter song for his dog's birthday. I've seen this movie before, and you are literally nothing special. Every time a technology makes it easier for a nobody to enter the frame, the existing somebodies start panicking. Invention of a camera, painters start screaming that it's the end of the whole visual art. Invention of synthesizers, real musicians decide to scream about the end of the musicianships and called the synthesizers and MIDI cheating. Sampling was considered plagiarism, DJing was and kinda still is unfairly disrespected for its primitiveness. When YouTube started, real filmmakers complained that any idiot with a camera can become a movie star. So if you have a triple-digit IQ, you might start seeing the certain pattern here. So you're not defending art, my friends. You're defending your status. The reason the mid is panicking in 2026 is pretty simple. For decades, at least for the last 20 years, you could earn a bit of decent money being just an average enough in music production because the barrier to entry was really high. Yes, bear with me, it will make sense in a second. Some consider those barriers to be the so-called filter for only the highly qualified, experienced and creative to enter the industry, but in reality, not really. Musicians needed a label needed a lot of money and a lot of control over the production, which means that they never wanted a highly skilled or a creative session player or engineer to work, because they are either too expensive or too hard to control, organize, and they are too independent. Yes, you know about the stories about all the teams of Michael Jackson's, Madonna's, Pink Floyd's, but do you really know the names of their guitarists, bassists, sound engineers? If you are a geek, probably. If you are an occasional listener, you don't and never will. So an average music professional was in fact protected by the overall cost of entry, which is no more nowadays. When a machine can generate an average pop song that is indistinguishable, and stop lying it isn't, from your average pop song, maybe the problem isn't the machine. Maybe the problem is that you were making average slop and calling it special, just because a human fingerprint touched some keys. There is a quote of Cat Williams that I like. If 100 people talk at the same time that you are talking, are you saying something different than them people are saying? Because if you are, you deserve a special, and if you don't, you're gonna realize that you are nothing special. And it applies to everything and everyone, by the way. So when I see a 40-minute video essay from a creator with $1,000 studio setup crying about how art is over, I don't see a victim. I see a gatekeeper who is terrified that their average skill and average output is being matched by an average algorithm. If your music is so derivative that the machine can already replace it effortlessly, that's a you problem, not someone else's. I've heard the following statement in different shapes and forms. I've spent thousands of hours, thousands of brain cells, thousands of monies. I've put my whole body to the test in delivering the art I delivered, and I cannot agree that the music without such sacrifices is real. Not verbatim, but most of them tell this.
No, I actually made a YouTube video producing the track in 20 minutes and loads of people in the comments got really angry because music's supposed to be an art and it's supposed to take much longer apparently.
And my answer to this? You do understand that the vast majority of popular music has been done by illiterate musicians who just picked guitars, played something by ear and delivered national hits. You do realize that some of the most notable electronic banners were made from standard factory presets. You know that even in such genres as heavy metal, where you can't really fake the skill, the most popular songs are the ones the musicians spend the least effort making them. Stories from Sabbath's Paranoid to Architects' Animals are the stories of how 30-minute drafts turned out to be the turning points in their careers. We have romanticized struggle so much that we have forgotten that struggle does not automatically mean high quality of the output. A song is not necessarily the same as giving birth to a new human being. When you have to fuck around, and I mean quite literally for months or even years, then you need to endure the 9 months of pregnancy, then you need to spend years raising a child properly. And by the way, while we're at it, let me nitpick for a second again and remind you that the noise cancellation in the microphone you used was damned the same way. The autofocus in your camera, same. And I'm aware that these are obviously different types of technology. The point still stands. Instead of either using the technology or ignoring it completely, you decided to spit against the wind. The comment about AI is taking my views and listens and money, also makes no sense at all. Let's look at the recent phenomenon of Engine de Poitrine and their recent viral success. It's a progressive rock duo from Quebec. They look weird, they sound even weirder. It's microtonal prog rock without vocals, but with a huge dose of psychedelic madness. In contemporary world, they should have stayed niche and play in small garages and warehouses at home. But look at the views from just one live show from KEXP. So all you've been doing is playing another overused chord progression, a melody on a minor pentatonic scale, a modulation on the final chorus, and all those cliches that've been tried and true and beaten to death. You could never stand a chance among real creative artists. And just because you can pluck some strings, hold some pitches with your vocal cords, or press some keys, and even if you know the theory and can sight read the shit music, you are no better than any of us mere peasants. So in my book, you never deserved any views and listens and monies in the first place. And by the way, don't give me that BS about caring for other musicians. You never did, admit it. It's simple gatekeeping wrapped in a cloak of moral superiority. And in a world that is already a dumpster fire, watching a bunch of privileged creators cry about what? Stolen views and streams? It's fucking exhausting. So if you are still watching and enduring me telling you why everyone is a failure, you are probably asking the screen right now, is there something you don't hate, you cynical fuck? Actually, there is. The future generations. You see, while the labels were busy signing their deals with the devil and the self-proclaimed victims were crying in hopes of looking for validation, there is someone, somewhere, there is a teenage kid somewhere in the world who discovered they could make the music they like by typing one sentence. For a lot of people, AI is the first exposure to the joy of creation. Back when I was a kid, there was MTV Music Generator for PlayStation, and I still kinda envy all the kids of 2000s who had an opportunity to play it, because it was literally the gamified version of a DAW. It allowed to mix and match the samples in a way that always made sense, and it allowed the player to develop interest in the music making and gradually switch to something like Fruity Loops and further to other more adult DAWs. And by the way, while we're at it, don't even dare to spew your spinal fluid over the keyboard. I'm not comparing the copyright cleared video game with AI slop generator in all the ways you're probably think right now. All I'm telling is that it's a new gateway to become interested in music. Without heavy investments, without elitists, without peers and competitors stressing you out, the results of Suno are still primitive as shit, but they are specifically serviceable as a browser video game and will not only give the users a hit of dopamine from making something with pleasant sounds, it may spark an interest in wanting to know how the melody works. They start looking up how to play piano tutorials, how to sing, how to do their own thing when they know that everything else is already accessible to everyone. And here's what the mods don't want to admit, that toys lead to tools. For example, that kid makes like 10 to 20 AI songs. Okay, but eventually they will get bored and move on completely from music or start to develop as a musician. First, they start to experiment with the prompts and they might quite literally start looking for something unique, something absurd, something new, like vegetarian progressive grindcore, or some black gays with Japanese kawaii voices. Next, they might decide to change the composition. For example, they might change the placement of a bridge, or make the chorus have a certain different key or scale, whatever. They want the lyrics to be about their exact life and their exact experiences, not the slop about heartbreak in the rain generated by the machine initially. So they download a trial version of FL Studio or a light version of Ableton and they start creating. They might get a simple MIDI keyboard, they buy a cheap guitar without that BS about tone wood. Oh boy, I got so much to say about this BS, but we might save it for another time. So the Suno to Studio pipeline is real. And we, as older generations of music lovers and some people who produce, some people who compose, some people who create, we need to stimulate that feeling. And definitely not bash the younger generations on the head with the guilt and the blame that they somehow cheated. Stop acting like suffering for your art is the only way to earn the seat at the table. AI is not really replacing artists. It's onboarding them. And look at the fucking calendar. It's 2026. Get over it. AI is the great filter. It's going to automate the average so thoroughly that the average becomes a $0 commodity. If you want to stand out in 2026, you're going to have to do something a machine cannot categorize. You're going to have to be microtonal, you're going to have to be weird, you're going to have to be as physically present as Angine de Poitrine. Or full of real vibes, real atmospheres, real unique solid textures and aggressive industrial noise like health, for example. The machine cannot give you the intent, it cannot give you the reason why the note is flat, or why the beat is dragging, or why does the production sound like it's drowning in sand. Well, the salty resistance is guarding the gates of a cemetery full of beaten horses of music. The next generation is playing in the dirt, learning how to build something new from the ashes of your average career. So maybe let's stop shaming the kid with the prompt? He's just discovering that he has a voice. The fact that he is using a calculator to find it doesn't mean that the voice is less authentic. It just makes the mid terrified that they're about to be lapped by a 12-year-old with a vision or a 72-year-old with an idea they've been hiding their whole life. So here we are, like 30-40 minutes later. By the way, this shit doesn't work. My brain is done. Your ears are probably ringing and some of your butts are hurting. Well, the YouTube algorithm is already preparing you another iteration of AI is evil type of essay. All that I want to say now is, I'm tired, boss. I'm tired of AI bros selling me their slop generators. I'm tired of the labels hypocrisy and exploitation that seems to never end. And I'm especially tired of the creators who think that crying into their ring light is a revolutionary act. The AI music debate isn't about music, and never was. It was about fear. Tech bros fear that they will never be creative and inspiring and doing something new with their lives and with their hands, so they built a machine to do this for them. The labels fear that they'll stop getting enough money, that they will lose control over the artists, the music and the peoples and the wallets of us as listeners. So they built a so-called walled garden to trap us all in. And the myth? Fears that they are as replaceable as the statistics has always suggested. Personally, I'm going to listen to something that makes me feel like I'm not alone in a digital void. I don't care if it was made on a 1950s tape machine or a 2026 AI server or a fucking PlayStation 1. If it has intent, if it has a reason to exist beyond getting strings, I'm in. But all these TikTok rants, the Reddit audits, the soulful luxury labels, it's the real brain rot and it is slop, it's fucking noise. So if you're still watching, here's the conclusion. Go outside, listen to the wind or a bird, listen to something that makes you feel and turn off everything else.